Doing, brother? Sorry, I was having some issues with some volume on my end there. I was having some technical difficulties. How you doing? Hey, I was just saying earlier, nobody said to you that I heard congratulations and thank you for what you did for the sport, man. Uh,
I
this is
appreciate.
a big accomplishment, getting into the UFC and doing what you did. I've heard a lot of criticism of you. I haven't, I haven't heard you get your due. I want to talk to you though about what was the process like coming into the UFC? How much contact did you have with everybody? Let's say before the fight, with Dana White and with other people in the UFC.
No, it was just I have solid friends, a relationship with Mick Maynard, and it was just the history as far as like fighting Mickey Gall and the three of us, and it just made sense. For me, it was my fight to begin with, so it only made sense to put me in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was happy. Thank you the first time for coming on the show. Thank you for coming on again. Were you surprised at the comments that Dana White have, though? Did he say anything to you after the fight,
No,
before he came out to that press conference?
no, I didn't see him after the fight. I actually waited around after the fights before. I was trying to run into him, but again, he's a busy man, so I ended up just leaving. But I found out about this was before knowing what his comments. Excuse me. I found out, after the fights, went back to the hotel to get drop some stuff off, and then, like I said, after the fights, I wanted to get some deep dish pizza. So I was actually going out, I was sitting down, waiting for the pizza to come, and I'm checking my phone, and I'm getting all these notifications and mentions, and it really like threw me off. Like I didn't expect it at all, and so but like I said, I understand where he was coming from, but it's just certain things that you don't have to say, and you don't have to go about it that way that he did, and so that's really what would rub me the wrong way.
Because, yeah, you stuck around for the media. I seen your interview after the fight. I heard you talking about that deep dish pizza. I know you guys are hungry after that interview or after that
No,
weigh-in, man. And you don't cut a lot of weight. I don't think.
no.
What did you cut for this fight?
I dropped not much. When I got to Chicago, probably about 9 pounds out. And that was I was still on a Truth Food tour. I woke up that morning about I woke up Friday morning about 2.5 pounds out, and even fight night I only put on about 7 pounds. I don't put on a lot. And when I fight at 170, I don't put on much weight after.
Yeah, I know you were asked about the weigh-in, them moving these weigh-ins to 4 p.m. Now Dana comes out. I don't want to put you in the position, against Dana, but just from my position, he says that he's asked the fighters. Most of the fighters are on with the 4 p.m. weigh-in. This is not what I've seen. I have yet to hear one person, I believe,
I
say
don't
that they
know.
prefer the 4 p.m. weigh-in.
I don't know who he's talking to, but it's definitely not any fighters. Look, man, I've been around this sport for a long time, for 10 years, and I've been to countless weigh-ins, and not at any point has I heard a fighter be happy about having these late weigh-ins. Everybody wants early weigh-ins. You got it, guys, man, out here on the regional show. You have guys that they may say weigh-ins are at like 1 o'clock. They want you there by 1 o'clock. You're not hitting the scales till about 3 o'clock. You know what I'm saying? And so to have fighters who are walking around hungry and thirsty and dehydrated, like it's not a good look. So for me, early weigh-ins were I mean, even before they became a thing, I was like, yo, early weigh-ins be way doper, and then we come back later, and do something. Or even if you weigh in like early in the morning, and then you rehydrate and do something, come back later. But what it turns out to be is that you have to pay the commissions for to be there earlier or longer and things like that. So I think it's really just coming down to a financial thing.
Really? You think it just comes down to a financial guy? I hadn't thought of that.
Again, I work. That's the thing is like I work with closely with promotions, and I have friends who work for the state, and I know how the athletic commissions work, and they're big about finances. And again, it's like any job. Like if you work in overtime, you expect to get paid more, and that's all it is. When you do these early weigh-ins, it's basically overtime for their officials, and so you got to pay them.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. Now, I know some guys don't like to wake up early. Like Dana White said, he said fighters aren't morning guys. Well, a lot of fighters are morning guys. I don't know what time you're running, but I know a lot of.
Oh, I hate mornings, so no.
Yeah, mornings, yeah. I mean, I could see a guy wanting maybe an 11 a.m. weigh-in as opposed to an 8 because maybe you got a little more time if you're sweating some out. And you're not doing these big weight cuts like Yoel Romero. I mean, I don't know
Well, I
exactly
think
what the
they can
deal was
adjust
with
it.
him.
I think they can adjust it. Let's do maybe because it's from 9 to 11. Maybe if they do a 9 to 12 or even like a 10 to 1, it would be better. But to wait to later in the afternoon is just not. It's not conducive to healthy weight cuts.
Yeah, Holly said maybe 11 o'clock. I agree with you. Here in Washington State, I don't even know if very many people know this. You probably do. Washington State's one of the only, where I live here in Seattle, one of the only states that has same day weigh ins. And for whatever reason, they seem to think they're going to, I guess, discourage fighters from cutting weight. And that's not going to happen. Guys are going to, they're going to cut to where they're going to cut, especially when you have these big weight differences,
Yeah,
170 to 185. 185 to 205. That's a tremendous jump.
it's a big jump. Like I think they're doing the fighters a disservice by doing these things because like they're the ones or we're the ones out here performing. We're the ones out here cutting the weight. Now, cutting the weight, it's all subjective on if you should do it or not or whatever. But it's already ingrained in the sport. You have it where you want to maximize your size and your weight classes, and guys are going to do it regardless. So knowing this, you should want to make you should want to make sure that it's done in a healthy and proper way. And if you have fighters telling you like let's do it at let's kind of do it in this time frame and everyone's on board, then I don't see why not. Like I said, I think it's a financial thing and people just they want to be in control. They want to be in power stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize. I'd never thought of that. What do you think about the Yoel Romero thing though? 0.2 pounds away. It's like you let him cut 30 some pounds, and now all of a sudden 0.2 pounds away. It's unsafe. Now, obviously, there's some things that I don't know behind the scenes, and maybe that there was some safety things that I'm not privy to. But it seems like when you get to that point, it's like you have 2 hours. I don't know. Do you have any ideas of what their possible thinking could have been there?
Well, because when the whole as far as like missing weight within that time period or
Well,
what?
he had I believe Yoel Romero had 2 hours left, and he was 0.2 pounds away, and the commission said that it was unsafe for him to continue to cut. And Yoel Romero walks around at like 230. He's dropping to
Well, no, but
185.
from my understanding is well, he came in the original weight when he weighed in by 11 o'clock. He was a pound over, and you get 2 hours to cut that. And in that 2 hour period, he cut point 0.8. He didn't cut the full pound, and so that's why they didn't give any more time.
Okay,
I
maybe
didn't
I'm.
have anything about the as far as not being allowed because of the state. To my understanding, like I said, he came in a pound over for the initial weigh-in. It was funny because I got off the scale. He was walking into the room, and I had to do a double take. I didn't realize it was him at first. Like the guy passed by, and the only reason I turned around again because he didn't have a shirt on. So I was like, "Who's this random guy without a shirt on?" And I looked, and I was like, "Oh, that's Yoel." Like the dude looked completely different than the day before because he was one of the guys that I've been seeing quite often, whether it be on the bus or around the hotel. I've seen Yoel several times, and like the dude is a big guy.
Oh yeah, he
And
looks like a freaking superhero. He looks like
right,
a
so
cartoon.
right, and so when I saw him do weigh-ins, I was like, oh, was that Yoel? Um, but no, it was again. By that time, that has nothing to do with the rules. Like the rules are the rules. It's like You miss weight on the first weigh-in attempt. You get 2 hours. Well, actually, they give you longer than those other commissions. The other commissions I know only give you an hour. They gave him two, and so in that 2 hour window, you had a chance to cut another pound. But what people don't understand is like he already cut a tremendous amount of weight. The last 5 pounds, at least for me, are horrible. That last pound is even worse. And so when you're already dehydrated and depleted, where are you going to get that pound from? You know what I'm saying? So for him, I think that's just what it was. He didn't have enough. Again, it's one of those things where he either cutting too much weight or he simply hadn't adjusted to the early morning weigh-ins.
That could be, and I think maybe if he had had an 11 o'clock, maybe maybe he could have done this. They've been doing this, I guess, since June 2016, and I know you follow. Obviously, you follow the sport. You have your own podcast, The Truth. Everybody watch that. Why don't you give us a shout out? Tell us about your podcast for a second.
It's called The Truth About Stuff Podcast. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher. And of course, you can find the direct links at mikethetruth.com/podcast. But my co-host, who's actually in my corner, he was the fat guy, Richard Burmaster. We talk a lot about the combat sports in general, and we have our own kind of flavor and humor that we add to the podcast. But then we talk about some pop culture references as well, whether it be music or movies or whatever. And now we tend to tie those into fighting. So it's just a cool podcast with two fun guys, and we have a good time.
Yeah, you've got to. I realize that, on this show, I try to do like some fight companions. Yesterday I was trying to do a show during, the Ultimate Fighter, which honestly, I think this is probably their last season. How many more seasons can they do that for? But it's like,
man, they don't keep doing them, man, because what they do, they got new crops coming every time. New crop of fighters don't keep coming, so they don't keep doing Ultimate Fighter because people gonna watch.
This I like this Dana White Contender Series right now, though. I like it better right now for where we're at, because I've seen real world Big Brother added with fighting so many years. I don't know if you watched that first episode of this new series, the Dana White Contender Series.
No, I didn't get to watch it, but I knew three guys. I know Kevin Holland, who won by decision, Alonzo Minifield, who won with that quick knockout, and Greg Hardy, who won with the knockout. So, those are a couple guys that I knew going into. And then there's a countless other guys that I know who's going to be on the upcoming episodes as well.
I think that's a fun one. Not that I don't like the Ultimate Fighter. I don't like the way they've switched a few things up. Honestly, I think the old ones are way more entertaining.
Right.
Pete Spratt was in season 4. You're related to Pete Spratt. He's your cousin, right?
Oh, that's Uncle Pete.
Uncle Pete, your uncle. I'm sorry. I've had him on the show too. I know Pete, but I couldn't remember. I was surprised. I didn't know you guys were related, and then I seen him posting something on Facebook.
That's my play uncle. It's a black thing. We got play uncles and play cousins.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I know I hear that sometimes, so I wasn't sure. But I seen you were over there training in Texas with him. How long have you known him?
Man, I've been knowing Pete for probably about 5-6 years.
Yeah,
I've known him for quite a while. That's a good friend of mine. I get to come hang out with him. I get to be at his home, be around his family, go to his gym. We do like little cookouts together. So yeah, that's my guy.
Man, he's a great guy, super nice guy. One of the nicest guys I've talked to, I think, in the sport. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, so that's got to be a big. I know you were up there wrestling with him. How much were you training with him for this camp?
I didn't do too much. For me, I get to travel around for different events, whether it be for a Legacy Fighting Alliance, or I also work for the Jiu-Jitsu super fight promotion called Submission Hunter Pro. And we'll travel the country. We do a lot of shows in Texas, Louisiana, but we travel the country. Tomorrow I'll actually leave out. We have a show Friday in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and then in 2 weeks we have another show out in Nashville, Tennessee. So the Submission Hunter Pro, man, it's a solid grappling super fight promotion. We put on some exciting matchups from kids all the way up to kids and in between, kids to blue belts or to black belts. We put them on the card. And you see some solid matchups.
Can people? I know we can watch LFA on us. Obviously, that's on TV. The jiu-jitsu, can we watch this on TV?
We do it where right now we're doing like little live streams on the Facebook page. Just type in Submission Hunter Pro Grappling, and you can check those out. And like I said, we'll post we post the card so you get to see all the some top levels in each belt from all these different cities. I mean, we've had several UFC veterans on the card, people who compete in the UFC who competed at different levels. When we have some top-notch upcoming talent too who on the card, man, they're a lot of fun. And I'm not even really a jiu-jitsu guy, but when you have it's sub only, so it's not like points or anything like that. You have these guys, especially the kids. The kids are my favorite. You know, these kids are always going for the kill. So it's real exciting to see these guys match up on this type of platform.
Yeah, I'm biased, obviously, because I'm in the sport, but I think every kid should be in martial arts. There's just so much discipline and everything, and I've talked about this on my podcast. I think I talked about it some with Pete. Obviously, some of the issues that we're having in our school. I'm not sure how deep we want to go political. I'll go as deep as whatever, but I think a lot of this aggression, especially with young boys, man, they need to be getting their ass whooped. You know?
I agree. You have it where these kids, man, they're sheltered. They're not really interacting with other people. Their social skills are lacking, and they really have not. Many of these kids don't have a lot of discipline, you know. And it's unfortunate that there's so many parents who just like let their kids run around and do whatever and don't really check them. And then those kids go out and you have this other kid, this nice little kid over here doing his own thing, not paying anybody any mind. And then you got the dude who's all big bad and he's a bully, he's upset at life, and he goes and picks on this other kid. You know, we need to do better with our youth. You know, we need to teach them better. We need to parent a little bit better, and make them understand that you just don't have to be a douchebag. That's really what it comes down to.
I think that's a good way to put it. From a guy that's a lot smarter than me, you got a degree in sociology, right? You got a master's degree in sociology. Am I correct?
It's just a bachelor's. You know, I plan to go back and get my master's. You know, it's just one of those things. I really didn't know, you know, what path I wanted to go on. Didn't know what the fight was going to take me. So I just went up to the bachelor's level. But I think I'm gonna go back just because again I enjoy learning. I enjoy educating myself, and that's the only way that that we can help out around the world or just help our society out. We have to be knowledgeable, and that's one of the issues is that you have a lot of cats who are just ignorant and they're unwilling to learn and make themselves better people. You know, and so for me, I'm always trying to be a better person. You know, you got to continue growing, and that's just me. So if I can give back, however. I have to do, whether I have to go get my master's and maybe become a teacher, whatever. I want to give back to the community.
I've talked to a few fighters on this, and obviously they're all for having like a judo, jiu-jitsu. I don't know if we have boxing in school because of the striking, how they're going to do that. We can definitely get judo in.
Back in the old school, back in the old days, they had boxing.
Yeah, I've talked to my dad and my uncle. They talk about doing the smokers. Two guys are really upset with each other. And, oh, why don't you jump in the ring? 2 minutes later, and they're huffing and puffing, and you got a new respect for each other.
Of course, 100%.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's the way that it should be. Yeah, these kids need some discipline. They're not even putting kids in physical education. I don't know if...
Man, it's crazy out there. You have kids who, they're so, again, they're caught up in the technology. They're very stagnant. They want to sit at their desks and they're on their iPads, their iPhones. And I mean, my son, he's 7. This dude, he keeps the iPad in his hand. I got to take it out. They're like, nah, you can either go play, get on a trampoline, go play soccer, whatever. You need to be active. You have a lot of kids who aren't active, and again, they got the TVs that are sort of raising them, and I think that's definitely hurting the culture, hurting our society.
Yeah, I'm sure you have maybe even a deep understanding from your sociology background. I've talked to a lot of fighters, and this was just kind of a name that I'd thrown out there, but I think there needs to be some kind of program. My thing was, I thought geese over guns sounded kind of catchy, but I think put some MMA guys in some of these schools. They're talking about, oh, let's arm the school. Let's give teachers guns, which my wife's a teacher. I think that's ridiculous. I don't want her to have a gun in her hand. Even though she's a better shot than me, she actually is a sharpshooter. I definitely don't want some of her co-teachers to have guns in that classroom, though.
100% agree.
It's like you got this problem, and we do this in society so much with a lot of things, though. But it's like we're not even going to try a solution. We're just going to try these little patches and fight in these little in-groups in our echo chambers. And it's like, these are kids. I can see if you're going to do this with other things in your life, other little petty things between adults, that's fine. But it's like we got a responsibility to take care of our kids. And I think martial arts, guys like you, guys that are in the UFC and stuff, could give a lot back. And I know you already do. You're already teaching these kids in jiu-jitsu and stuff. What do you see? How much are you involved with them, talking to them after they leave jiu-jitsu? These kids are in jiu-jitsu. Do you see their differences when they leave the dojo?
Yeah, I'm more of on the striking side, but I have interacted with a lot of the jiu-jitsu kids.
Or striking, any kind of MMA.
Right,
yeah.
Right. It's one of those things, man. Like a lot of these kids, they get in it and they love it. I'm finding, a lot of the kids that I see on the super fight cards, I've become really close with them and their parents. There's this 9-year-old girl named Apollonia Nuncio. She's a savage, man. You see her on the mats, and you can tell her just her passion and love for the sport of jiu-jitsu. And I think we need to. That would be a way to sort of give back to the community or help kids out, is give them some kind of martial art program like a jiu-jitsu, or I think something practical, jiu-jitsu or judo or wrestling. These types of programs are very beneficial to our youth. It helps them not only grow as athletes and as in kids, but this eventually helps them become better people, better adults in the future. And that's what we need. We have a lack of just quality adults and quality parenting, and that it has a trickle down effect, because if you have a parent who's a terrible parent, then they're going to raise terrible kids. You're not going to have a terrible parent raise a productive member of society. The chances of that happening are very slim. You may have a terrible parent, and then the kid probably wants to buck the system, and so they want to go the different path, but that's rare. Typically, it's just a cycle that continues. You have bad parenting creates bad kids. Those kids grow up and become parents, and it's just a vicious cycle.
I couldn't agree with you more. And yeah, you do see the outliers. You see guys like I like Isaiah Thomas. I don't know how much you study him. He's in the NBA, and obviously, he went through a lot, bringing his his brothers and sisters up through a lot of that and stuff. But you're not even seeing like the school shootings, and I think we got to address this and what's going on with these kids. You're not even seeing the kids that have struggled going in here. I heard somebody was talking about, obviously, it's no secret that in Chicago, there's a violence problem for whatever reason that is. But they were saying you don't see school shootings in Chicago though. Mm-hmm. And maybe they're not reported, but these were the news, the news outlets that I was listening to and things that I was listening to. It's these, middle America, Colorado, things that have happened here in Washington. And I know a lot of things don't make the national news, because just around here in Seattle, there's been a lot of things that have happened that haven't made the national news. But do you think these kids just haven't struggled enough? Why are they doing this?
No, it's not about that. What it comes down to is you have a sense of entitlement is what it comes to. And you have these kids who are raised a certain way. They're given all of this privilege, and then for whatever reason, whether they're bullied or whether they have a sense of entitlement, they decide to pick up a gun. And it's very unfortunate not only that they decide to pick up a gun, but that they have access to these weapons. We need to teach our kids that, you don't have to be a douchebag, right? But on the flip side of that, because again, you can't really control everyone, but on the flip side of that, we have to teach kids that, it's just part of life. and then it's just an obstacle in life, and that you're gonna have to overcome it. We're coddling kids too much. It's like a kid feels like they something happens, they cry home to mommy, and now the parents have to solve the problems, as opposed to allowing the kid. Now again, this obviously depends on age and experience and things like that, but you can't be a 14-year-old kid with problems at school and you're immediately running home to your parents and telling them what's happening and trying to get them to solve it. Like you're a few years away from becoming to be considered an adult in society. And the problem is you have a lot of these kids who are graduating high school and going off to college, and they don't have any real life skills. They don't have any logic thinking skills. Like because in school we're not teaching kids, especially in high school, you're not teaching kids like life survival. You're not giving them that kind of training. You're doing it. And again, I was a straight A student, AB student. So school, I was just one of those people and kids fortunate enough to just be smart and to pick it up fairly quickly. But again, not everybody can do it the way I did it. And we need to be able to teach our kids, like things that'll help them out in life. You know what I'm saying? I remember learning stuff in high school, and I was like, dude, I'll never use this, and I haven't used it. But there are a lot of things that could be taught that kids can use these days, and it'll help them become better people, better adults. And they look, if they get picked on, you get picked on. But you don't get picked on and then go grab a gun and take it out on everybody because your feelings are hurt. But that's why I feel is where all of this lies, is that the kids are just being coddled too much, and they have to understand that it's just life. That's part of it, and you have to be able to maneuver through life and come out on top. Especially when you're not in Chicago, you're not in these inner cities where it's life and death every day. You just like your mom took your iPad away, like you'll be all right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and now you're gonna go grab a gun. It's like what? Yeah, it's
that's what I'm talking about. You've seen the stories. A kid gets something taken away, he kills his parents, and he was like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And again, it comes back to this entitlement and the coddling and these kids not having responsibilities for their actions.
Yeah, there's some kind of disconnection there. That's just my what I see. And like I said, my wife's a teacher. She's in 5th grade, so she's seeing some of these kids when they're getting their first cell phones and their first iPhones and stuff. That's funny. You end up being the martial artist. And you got the straight A's. The only reason I stayed in school was because they got judo sophomore year. I'd have never graduated. I was such a horrible student before that, and the only reason I did judo was there, and I got pretty good at it. I got into martial arts, but the only reason I graduated, my sensei told me, I didn't find out till after senior year that he couldn't hold me to any grades. He told me, he's like, hey, you're going to keep a 3.0. And nobody was held to a 3.0, but he knew that whatever he told me to get, that's what I was going to do to stay in judo. I wasn't going to keep coming to school. So, yeah, I think you give these kids something like that, a reason to stay in school, but yeah, also something to get that physical exertion out.
Right. They have to have an outlet.
I think we should have a guy like you teaching, PE class, some jiu-jitsu class, 30 minutes a day. Mike Jackson.
That'd be cool.
Mike Jackson, how not to be a douchebag.
That classes like that. And that's the thing is, man, I see it. I see these little kids running around, and I'm just like, yo, like, you're going to grow up to be a douchebag. Like, I see it. These kids are probably like 9, 10 years old, and I'm just like, ugh.
Oh, I know. I hear it from my wife every day. Yeah, in 5th grade, and she's just pulling her hair out, and it's more frustrating with the parents because the parents want to, they want to advocate for and make excuses for their little, like you said, douchebag kids. But,
right.
Yeah, that's where the real fault falls. I know we kind of got off on a tangent there, but I think this is really important in our culture right now, and I think
100%.
I think MMA is a huge part of the solution. Honestly, it can be some kind of sport or something like that.
I agree 100%. Like I said, it won't hurt. It won't hurt to try.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, I was bullied. That's why I got into, that's
Okay.
why I got into martial arts. That's why I got into judo. And, I put on some weight. I started lifting weights. A couple guys see me throw a couple throws. You get in one fight
Yeah.
in the lunchroom. Nobody messes with you after that.
No one wants to get
You know
tossed
how
on
it
their head,
works. Yeah,
man.
yeah.
No one wants to get dumped on their head.
Yeah, exactly. Where do you go from here as far as fighting though? Have you thought much about this? I know this has been just a few days away from this victory in Chicago.
Look, whatever comes. Like I just fight because I love to fight, man. I enjoy the sport. If I never fight in the UFC again, that's cool. If I do, that's cool too. If I'm doing boxing or kickboxing, I mean, whatever happens, happens. Like I'm not sitting here focused on it because I don't have to focus on it. You have a lot of guys who, in their lives, all they know is fighting. That's all they have. For me, I have my hands in other pots. So like I said, if I fight, that's cool. If I don't, I'm cool with that too.
Yeah, well, you got a backup plan. That's a smart thing to have. And I was,
100%. Look, man, I've always been a hustler. Always had a hustler's mentality, and I look at myself as a business, and I have to treat it as such. I can't, and you can't have just one product to sell when you have a business. Eventually people not going to want that product anymore. And then what? For me, my hands are everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So I'm always ready.
do you ever talk to some of these other fighters? Because I get very emotionally invested in fighters' lives, especially the ones that, struggled through and maybe don't really have a backup plan afterwards. Have you mentored or talked to any of these guys, maybe on any circuit or whatever, and say, hey, you need to be doing this, or help them get into college or starting their own business or whatever it might be?
I did early on when I first got in the game. I tried to pass on the knowledge. It wasn't very receptive out here, so I sort of backed away from it. Maybe that'll be something I look toward in the future, is to maybe start some kind of foundation and give back. I know out here in Missouri City, which is where I live for the past 20 plus years, it's a suburb of Houston. June 9th is now Mike the Truth Day out here. And so I got my own day in my honor. So, every year, I think from here on out, we're going to have some kind of, whether it be a crawfish boil, whether it be a cookout or something. But we're gonna always have a great cause to get or for it to be behind. And we just got to find out what that's going to be for the first one that's going to come up next year. And then hopefully it turns into something big and major. And again, we're going to keep giving back.
Very, very cool. Very cool. It breaks my heart to see some of these fighters that have been in there. Obviously, like a Gary Goodridge or some of these guys that it's like I take a little bit of responsibility on myself as a fan. Maybe most people don't think that. It's like these guys, they entertain me like a LeBron James or a Michael Jordan or something. But a lot of these guys, they didn't make a whole lot of money. And I know, your disclosed purse, it wasn't a lot of money. It was probably more money than, you make. I don't know what you usually make in a month, but I think your disclosed purse was $23,500. I'm sorry. It's public, though.
Oh, no. It was 24.
Yeah.
It was 24.
Yeah. I've always thought that was weird how everybody's got to know how much fighters make, but I throw it out there because it's already out there in public.
Right. Nah, that's all good.
And see, what did you have any thoughts or any comment though about the CM Punk making $500,000?
No, I know. Again, I knew why we were here, and it's a business, man. Again, like I said before, man, I'm a business, so I understand the business side of fighting. So it only makes sense. Look, he earned every penny of that. He deserved it. He brought in the numbers. People tuned in. They bought the pay-per-view to see what he was going to do. It was just unfortunate that I was the guy that had to get in there and sort of crush the dreams, or not even crush the dreams, but in this cash cow, man. I knew what Uncle Dana was about. There's only one reason you bring him here, and we said it in the beginning what it was. So like I said, I'm cool with it. I knew what I was getting myself into, and it is what it is.
Well, he got an ass whooping from Mike Jackson and a trip to the hospital for his troubles, right? So.
Yeah, and he didn't have to pay for that hospital trip. UFC pays for it.
That's true. That's good. At least they pay his medical, right?
There you go.
Everybody's medical, and he was one of the top earners on that. I'm glad to see some of these guys starting to make a little more money.
Yeah.
But
And again, the sport is new. I don't think people understand. People only see the outside. They don't see the inner workings of the company. Now, do I feel fighters should be getting paid a little bit more? Of course I do. But at the same time, the UFC is a huge, just this corporation. They're a large company and they have a lot of mouths to feed. And people don't understand that it's not just the fighters, it's not just Dana. Now, I'm sure, Dana and these guys, they could take a pay cut if they chose to, but they still pay a lot to their staff and employees, which they have a lot of them. And then they provide a lot of amenities for the fighters. So it's not as clear as, and again, I can carry either way as far as UFC fighters go. I'm not taking anybody's side here, but just being an unbiased person, like they got a lot of mouths to feed in that company, and so it's not like they sell all this money and then it just goes to like Dana and his guys. Like they got a lot of bills to pay over there, and so I think that's what a lot of people don't see and don't know.
yeah, and you've got the bigger perspective because, yeah, you're on the inside, and some people that maybe weren't boxing fans first. Because I was a boxing fan before MMA come around. I mean, I was one of these disturbed kids. I don't know. I was watching boxing when I was 4 years old, but I really love this stuff. What they don't realize is those guys were in boxing. Yeah, you see the Floyd Mayweather's making $100 million or whatever. You don't see the guy, going down to Tijuana to fight for $400. The guy that's fighting in the States for $1,000. It still happens. $1,000, $1,200. Sometimes they don't even get paid. Maybe the promoter skips out.
Right.
You're not worrying about that with the UFC, at least.
No, you're not. But as I said, what it comes down to is you have a lot of this is fueled by, you have people there are people who deserve their fair share, and then you also have people who don't know their values, and so you have to, once you get in this, you have to know your value. And if you don't want to fight for that person, well then don't sign with the company. That's my bet. Like if that's how you want to face it, then face it that way. Say, look, man, I'm not happy with this pay, and go somewhere else. But again, it's going to take a lot of fighters to do that, and fighters are very selfish. They looking out for themselves, and I understand it because these dudes got mouths to feed. They got people to take care of, people to support. So it only makes sense. But if they want something to come together as a whole, then fighters are going to have to come together. If they don't, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, very true. You don't have that unity like you have in even like football or basketball, because a lot of these guys are loners.
Right.
A lot of these guys are maybe, you took care of it. Like you said, you got straight A's, things like that. You got a guy like maybe like Chris Lieben that maybe, took a little different path to the UFC. And he's got a little bit different mentality. I really like Chris Lieben. Just saying that, he's doing really well. He's training people. I'm glad he was able to,
Right.
get his life turned around. But he had a few more road bumps, and some people have them. They may be self-inflicted or not. But hey, good luck to you in the future. How can we follow you everywhere, man?
Yeah, man, you can check me out on all my social media is @TheTruthJackson, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat. Of course, the podcast, which again is on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, is called The Truth About Stuff. And then, of course, MikeTheTruth.com/podcast.
All right. Well, hey, thank you very much for your time. Like I said, again, if nobody said it before, congratulations. And
Thank you.
Thank you for doing, what you do for the sport, for the youth. And I really appreciate that as, part of the martial arts community. And I feel like you're a blessing to the martial arts community. So thank you very much.
I appreciate it, my guy. Hat tip. Have a good one.
All right. You too. Hope to talk to you again one day. See you.
Sir, yes, sir.
Have a good one.